Just want to say a quick thanks to everyone who played or even just downloaded Thalassic. Uh, it's my first game that I've ever made, and it's been really nice to see all the support. Thank you. About 2 years ago, I made a game by the name of Last Light. It was a small Python project in which I only made in like a month or two, so it was a little bit rushed and doesn't have that much depth to it. There's a lot of small details that I spent way too much time on, more than I ever should. The game was very much based off Little Nightmares, in which you just do puzzles and try and go as far in one direction as you can. But I realize now that the game resembles a lot more of something like Limbo, with the kind of monochrome color scheme. The game was about a boy who had woken up in a post-apocalyptic world, who just had to get across puzzles, go right, a lot like Little Nightmares, while he had monsters chasing him and all sorts of threats along the way. The monster part of this game was really rushed because I only had a week to complete this part of the game. So, and also, monster design looks so, I don't even know, or a lot of my friends compare it to Shrek whenever I showed them, because of those little ears. Well, and you might be saying, well, you don't have any friends. Well, I'd say you're right. The point is, I liked the idea of this game. I liked the story, I liked it all. And I wanted to make it into something much, much more. So I decided to start working on it in Unity and make it into a proper 3D game, which I would later upload to Steam. But the first thing I would have to do is make models for all the 3D elements of the game. And what better way to start that off with but Blender. At the point of making the game, I had very little Blender skills, so I was off to Blender Guru, obviously, to watch the entire series of his donut videos and learn absolutely nothing. So I just went right into it and thought the easiest way to learn it is to just go ahead and do it. I'll learn along the way. It can't be that hard to use Blender, right? And I found out it isn't that hard. Like, I was just trying to make a cat, and I found it very easy to make something that looks a lot like my sleep paralysis demon without even trying. Which, surely, it would be so much easier to make a model for the main character. It's not like humans are way more complex to make than cats. And you're right. I made something equally as terrifying. So I began creating a map in Blender for the game, which was the most lazily drawn out and most horrible looking map I could ever imagine. The only thing that kind of helped it was post-processing, which even then, it was hard to fix it with that. I added in the cat, and they were also looking terrible. I added the character, but they were doing a action in which I don't think I can show on YouTube. They were meant to be doing a T-pose as the normal how characters start off in games, but they ended up doing that. The game was going horrible, there was plenty of bugs, boxes were moving off their course, cats were flying into the air for no reason, and my game development skills were not quite there yet. But luckily, I moved away from the game for a while and tried working on Thalassic. This might be the millionth time you've heard me say it, but Thalassic is a VR underwater horror game that is now available on Steam. If you want to go download it, it's most likely in the description. It's completely free again. If you do play it, I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to stop advertising it now. But it was good for me to take a break and, I guess, practice my development skills on a game like that, which was kind of just more of a test than something like this game, which would actually mean a whole lot more to me. So, in other words, Thalassic was just a learning experience. After about 6 months, which is about how long it took me to create Thalassic, I came back to the game realizing that it was terrible. So I started redoing the entire map and learned from my mistakes that I cannot make anything good. It's better just to borrow everything from Sketchfab or Unity Asset Store. And with that, the game was looking so much better. There was a few light leaks here and there, as you can see. A lot of the rooms were very epilepsy-inducing. Mostly my favorite room, which has a very flickery light. The map in general was looking miles better than it previously was. There was so much more detail that I could add without having to individually craft each and every object that goes into the building. It was just much easier, especially the game being mostly a one-man job. I disposed of the cat's existence because I realized it was more effort than what it was worth. It was such a small detail in the game, and it took me so long to create that again. And I fixed the character's looks by just making it so that you would never see the character in the first place, so why would it matter? I mean, that's not the best solution, but it works. But there was one small problem I had about the game. The first puzzle of the game was you just have to search around the house, walk around the house, to find a key. A lot of horror games these days are following the walking simulator route. They don't have very interesting game mechanics, and they are just kind of boring after a long period of time. I kind of want to go down the route of older horror games and kind of bring in the aspects that a lot of people liked about modern horror games and about the old classic horror games. So I decided to add something very similar to the sister location death minigames, where occasionally the gameplay would be broken up by simple arcade game mechanics. And I decided what better way to do this but recreate the entire map I made in the 3D version of the world, but as a 2D version instead.
Hello?
Hey, so Branson, you want to make some pixel art for me?
Would you let me out of the basement?
Yeah, I don't think I will. So you'll have that done by Saturday, right?
But I have a life to get to.
Yeah, well about that, yeah, not anymore. Sorry.
Okay.
Alright, bye. So, I did a lot of coding and used my work to create a hybrid between FNAF, Sister Location, and Inscription. But I didn't just copy a bunch of different big games. I did turn the game into something that was a lot more my own. It just took a little bit of inspiration from a lot of popular big horror games. But there was one key aspect of all horror games that I still required to have in my game, that being the monster. I had no other choice. I had to go back to Blender, and my past experiences from Blender weren't so good, so I was worried about this next one. The monster was meant to look like a newer, improved version of the old design that I created a very long time ago, and instead not look like Shrek. The creature was meant to look somewhat biomechanical, having a fleshy inside mixed with a robotic exoskeleton that was just trying to keep the rotted and decayed body from falling apart. So after finally learning some tips and tricks from Blender, I used a skin modifier to make the fleshy insides of the creature that I talked about, and then created an exoskeleton by making individual armor plates and extruding them outwards from the skin. The end result looked like this. And I was actually quite proud of it because it kind of looked like how I wanted the monster to look originally. And so the next part to do was texture the body. And what better way to start this off but by looking up human flesh texture online. And after some bonding time with my eyes and a bottle of bleach in the corner of my room, I found out never to do that again. But it was all worth it because now I saw an image of what it looks like when someone had a tumor taken out of them. So I was able to turn the monster into this. Honestly, the flesh texture makes it look so much better. I then used many more Blender tutorials to teach me how to create a metal texture. And the monster kept looking better, and I was liking how it looked. I know it's not some AAA game monster, but again, this is made by one person. And surely, during the time that I spent making this game, no one would have taken the name Last Light, right? What? Turns out, developers by the name of Team Cornfield created a game Last Light. I didn't want to use the same game name as someone else. I wanted an original game name. So I went on a quest to try and find a new game name, and it's very hard to find the right name for a game. So I spent about 2 months trying to come up with a name, and eventually I got one. Fallen Light. Yeah, that was the name. Okay, yeah, I know it's not as good as it. Yeah, it's fine. Thank you to everyone who did stay until the end. If you're wondering where this music came from, it's from my game. Wow. Yeah, I don't want to risk copyright, so all the music in here apart from the Discord calling sound is my very own. Thank you for watching all the way until the end again. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a like on the video, please. It helps support me. And, well, you've supported me already just by watching until the end, so I want to thank you. Goodbye. You're telling me Fallen Light is also the name of a Fortnite skin?